At my son's house for dinner, I got a text from an unknown number. Get up and go, don't say anything. I obeyed. Minutes later, the police knocked on their door. They tried to frame me as mentally incompetent to steal my $20 million land. But they forgot one thing: they didn't just steal my retirement. They stole the exact amount I had set aside for the IRS. And you never ever mess with the IRS. I am Owen Mitchell, 73 years old, and I am sitting in a glass cage. They call this a dining room, but to me it's a cage. My son Patrick and my daughter-in-law Nina live in one of those new money mansions in Fairfax, Virginia. Modern is the word they use, which means everything is cold. White marble that echoes every footstep, floor-to-ceiling glass that makes you feel like you're in an aquarium, and furniture that looks like it was designed to punish you for sitting comfortably. The house my wife Rose and I built, God rest her soul, was made of oak and love. This house was built with debt and ego. Nina is pouring wine. She's always pouring wine. Tonight it's something French I can't pronounce. I glanced at the label when she brought it over. I'd seen it in a shop in D.C. once when I was looking for a Christmas present. I know the price. The bottle of wine on this table tonight could pay my utility bills for 6 months. Patrick, my only son, 45 years old, is avoiding my gaze. He's been avoiding my gaze for 6 months now. I'm a retired contractor. I've worked with numbers and materials my entire life. I can smell financial desperation from a mile away. And this house right now stinks of it. "How is the lamb, Dad?" Nina asks. Her smile is practiced professional. It never ever reaches her eyes. "It's wonderful, Nina. Thank you." I lie. It's over-seasoned. My Rose, she only ever needed salt, pepper, and garlic. Patrick clears his throat. It's a nervous tick he picked up when he went into finance. "Dad," he begins. Nina places her hand on his. It looks like a gesture of support, but I know better. It's a command. "Say the lines." "Dad." Patrick tries again. "Nina and I have been thinking a lot about the future." I set my fork down. Here it is. The pitch. The well has run dry, and now they need to tap the old man. "You know," Nina slides in, smooth as silk. "Patrick has been working so hard. But the market, it's just so volatile." Volatile. That's what they call losing bets. I know Patrick has been messing with high-risk investments. I've seen mail from lenders I don't recognize. "We know you're still sitting on, a fair bit," Patrick says, finally looking at me. His gaze isn't that of a son asking for help. It's that of a collector. Nina smiles, ready for the kill. "Dad, we were thinking..." Bzzz. A single dry vibration from the old phone in my pocket. I hate technology, but I keep it on me. It's an old flip phone Rose bought me years ago for emergencies. I guess this qualifies. I glance at Patrick and Nina. They are poised, expectant. They smell money. I slowly pull the phone out, flipping it open under the table. One new message. From an unknown number. There's no greeting, no name. Just 8 words in capital letters. "Get up and go, now. Don't say anything to your son." My heart gives a single hard jolt. Not a heart attack, I had my physical last week, but a jolt of pure, cold adrenaline. For a second, I just stare at the glowing letters. "Dad," Nina asks, and the artificial sweetness in her voice is starting to thin. "Did you hear us?" I look up. I see Nina smiling her shark's smile. I see Patrick anxiously scratching his neck. Instinct. 50 years on construction sites teaches you to recognize when a wall is about to go. When you hear that little crack, you don't stand there and analyze it. You don't yell. You move. I push my chair back, the legs scraping loudly on the marble floor. Patrick flinches. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Medicine," I mumble, patting my chest pocket. "My pills," I think I left my heart pills in the truck. Annoyance flashes across Nina's face, interrupted right before the close, before it's replaced by a mask of performative concern. Oh my God. Do you need help, Patrick? Call 911. No, I snap. No, I just need air and the pills. I'll be right back. Let me get them for you, Patrick says, starting to rise. No, I say louder this time. You sit. I know where they are. I'll be right back. I turn my back on them. I don't walk fast. I don't run. I walk deliberately like an old man annoyed about his own failing body. I cross the atrium. I open the heavy glass front door. The cold November air hits me. It feels good. I walk down the long landscaped pathway, my hands shaking. Not from fear, from anger. I get to my old F1S0 parked behind their matching German SUVs. I open the door. I slide into the driver's seat. And I do not start the engine. I do not put the key in the ignition. I just sit. I turn off the dome light. I sit in the complete darkness, my truck hidden in the shadow of a massive oak tree. And I watch. How long did I wait? A minute. 2. It felt like an eternity. And then I saw it. A Fairfax County police cruiser. No sirens. No flashing blue and reds. It just glides up, silent as a shark, and stops directly in front of Patrick's house. My blood runs cold. This is it. 2 officers get out. They aren't in a hurry. They are calm. They walk up the pathway. I watch in my side mirror. They knock on the door. The door opens almost immediately. Nina stands there, bathed in the warm light from the atrium. I'm too far away to hear what's being said. But I don't need to hear. I just need to watch. I see Nina talking. She's gesturing. She's pointing inside. She does not look afraid. She does not look panicked. She looks relieved. She looks like someone who set a trap and is annoyed the prey didn't show. The officers nod. They talk for another minute. They look around, but they don't see my dark truck in the shadows. Then they nod, again turn, walk back to their car, and drive away. Nina stands in the open doorway watching them go. The smile is gone. The trap was set. That text message saved me. I put the key in the ignition, the sound of the old V8 engine roaring to life in the quiet, wealthy night. I'm not going back in. I need to know who sent that message. And I need to know what the hell I just escaped. I drove home to the small house Rose and I built with our own hands. The one Patrick and Nina call that sad little box. It's quiet here. It's safe. I sat in my old recliner, the one that smells faintly of Rose's lavender, and I stared at the phone. I tried calling the number back. It went straight to a dead-end tone. Hopeless. My mind was racing. The police. Nina's lack of surprise. The way they were pushing me, cornering me about money. It was a setup. But for what? To scare me, to... What? The phone rang at 2:17 a.m. I snatched it up before the first ring finished. It was the same unknown number. Grandpa? The voice was a whisper. It was cracked with fear. That voice. It hit me like a physical blow. Chloe, honey, is that you? Chloe. My granddaughter. Patrick's daughter, but my girl. 19 years old, smart as a whip and studying 3 states away. She was my and Rose's kid, really. We'd practically raised her while Patrick and Nina were out networking and building their brand. Grandpa, are you okay? Are you home? She whispered, sobbing. I'm fine, sweetheart. I'm home. What's going on? Chloe, how did you know? I'm so sorry, Grandpa, she cried. I did something bad. I hacked my dad's phone bill. I had a feeling. They've been weird. Hacked, my 19-year-old girl. I saw a number they kept calling. She continued, her voice gaining strength. A place called Senior Intervention Services. Senior Intervention. The name sounded cold. clinical. I got scared. So I put a listening app on Mom's phone 2 weeks ago. I know it's illegal, but I just heard them, Grandpa. I heard the whole thing. My blood pressure, which had just started to settle, spiked again. Heard what, Chloe? The plan, she said, her voice breaking. It was for tonight. They were going to confront you. They were going to offer you some business proposal they knew you'd refuse. The lamb, I whispered. The dinner. They wanted you to get angry, Chloe said, the words tumbling out. Mom said you'd get red-faced and start yelling about common sense like you always do. She was right. I would have. And then, Chloe's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. Mom was going to call 911. She was going to tell them her elderly, confused father-in-law was having a psychotic break and acting erratically. She was going to say she was scared for her physical safety. The police car, the officers. They weren't there for a robbery. They were there for me. They were doing a wellness check, Grandpa, Chloe confirmed my dawning horror. If you had been there yelling and confused, they would have taken you for a 72-hour psychiatric hold. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. They were going to have me committed. That was the trap. That was the first step to declaring me mentally incompetent, to taking everything. I tried to call you, she sobbed, but your phone was off. I drove to my friend's dorm. I used her phone to send that text. I didn't know if you'd get it. I just prayed. You saved me, Chloe, I said, my voice thick. Honey, you saved my life. It's not just that, Grandpa, she said, and the fear was back in her voice, sharp and immediate. What else? That's why I hacked their accounts in the first place. My tuition payment. It was declined. What do you mean declined? I paid your tuition for the whole year back in August. I know, she said. But I got an alert. My student portal. It's locked. The payment was clawed back. Grandpa, they locked me out of my college fund. The college fund I had set up. The one I was the sole administrator on. But that's not possible, I said. I'm the only one with access. Grandpa, she said, her voice small. I think you need to check your main accounts, not just my college fund. All of them, right now. I hung up the phone. The silence in the house was absolute. Chloe's voice, that terrified, sobbing whisper, check your main accounts, right now, was echoing in the empty room louder than any shout. My hand was steady as I placed the old flip phone on the table. That's what scared me. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't panicked. I was cold. A deep, penetrating cold that started in my gut and spread outward, numbing my fingertips. I stood up from my recliner. The old springs groaned in protest. I didn't run. I walked. I walked down the short hallway of the house Rose and I built with our own 2 hands. The walls are covered in our life. Patrick, 8 years old, missing his 2 front teeth, holding a Little League trophy. Chloe in her kindergarten cap and gown, grinning a gap-toothed smile that was all Rose. And a picture of Rose and me, 20 years old, standing on the bare patch of land that would become our home. I stopped at the small desk in the corner of the living room. Patrick and Nina bought me this computer last Christmas. To stay connected, Dad, Patrick had said, clapping me on the shoulder. To manage your finances. I remember Nina smiling. It's all online now, Dad. It's so much easier. I looked at the machine. I hate this damn thing. But I learned to use it. I learned to use it to pay my bills, to check the weather, and to manage the nest egg. The nest egg. 50 years. 50 years of getting up before the sun. 50 years of swinging a hammer in the August humidity and digging foundations in the January frost. 50 years of back-breaking work, of calloused hands, of sacrificing vacations so we could put something away. Rose and I, we weren't flashy. We didn't take the trips to Aspen that Nina obsesses over. We didn't drive the German cars that Patrick leases. We saved. We built a life and we built a fund. $850,000. It wasn't just money. It was security. It was a promise to Rose that I would never be a burden. It was the fund for Chloe's education. It was the proof, the tangible result of a life lived with honor and hard work. My hand was steady on the mouse. I clicked the icon for my web browser. I clicked the bookmark Patrick had so helpfully set up for me. Fidelity Investments. The login page loaded. Username omitchell73. My fingers moved over the keys. Password. My password was Rose 1975. The year we bought the land. The year our life truly began. I hit the enter key. The little blue circle on the screen spun and spun. Loading. My pulse was a slow, heavy drum in my ears. I realized I wasn't breathing. I forced the air out of my lungs. "Don't be a fool, Owen," I whispered. "Chloe's a kid. She's just scared. The tuition thing is a glitch, a bank error." The page loaded. My name was at the top. "Welcome, Owen." And underneath it, my total portfolio value. I stared at the number. I didn't understand. The decimal point must be in the wrong place. It had to be a glitch, a website error. This was a mistake. I blinked. I leaned closer to the screen, the bright white light stinging my old eyes. The number did not change. $12.30. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the wall. I just sat there. I stared at the screen, a strange, quiet ringing starting in my ears. $850,000. Gone. My contractor's mind kicked in. The part of me that doesn't panic but analyzes the damage. Facts first, emotions later. I clicked on the Activity tab. And there it was. The history of my life's work being dismantled. It wasn't one transaction. It was a systematic, brutal execution. A withdrawal. $50,000. 10 months ago. Another. $25,000. 9 months ago. $10,000. $40,000. $100,000. Page after page. A steady, merciless drain. All marked as authorized transfer. All transferred to a single holding company I had never heard of. PNN Ventures. PNN. Patrick and Nina. The dates. I looked at the first withdrawal. 10 months ago, the day after my hip surgery. The day Nina came to the hospital. "Just some routine papers, Dad," she'd said, her voice full of that fake sympathy. "Just in case, so I can help pay your electric bill and manage things while you're on the pain meds." I was lying in that bed, foggy from the morphine, grateful for her help. I remembered her holding the thick stack of documents. "Sign here, and just initial here." A durable power of attorney. I didn't just give them permission to pay my electric bill. I gave them the keys to my entire life. They stole it, all of it. They stole 50 years of my sweat and Rose's sacrifice. They used her name, Rose 1975, to log in and bleed us dry. And tonight, the dinner, the police, the wellness check. It all crashed into place. This wasn't a new plan. This was the end of their plan. They had the money. They were just waiting for me to find out. And they had an answer ready for when I did. They were going to have me declared incompetent. They were going to make me the crazy old man. When I finally screamed, "They stole my money," the world would only pat me on the head, slip a sedative in my applesauce, and say, "Of course they did, Owen. Now let the nice doctor help you." They had left me $12.30. An insult. An oversight. Or just the crumbs they couldn't be bothered to scrape up. It didn't matter. The coldness in my gut solidified. It turned from ice to steel. They thought they had left me with nothing. They were wrong. They left me with $12.30, and they left me with a purpose. They had started a war, and I am a man who knows how to build, and I know how to tear things down foundation first. I didn't sleep. You don't sleep when your life's work has been vaporized. You don't sleep when you realize the people you fed, housed, and loved have just executed a plan to destroy you. At 8 a.m. on the dot, I walked through the glass doors of the local bank branch, the same bank I'd used for 40 years. The lobby was quiet, just the hum of the lights and the click of a teller's keyboard. I wasn't angry, not anymore. That had burned out around 4 a.m., leaving behind something much colder, much harder. I was a contractor standing on the site of a building that had collapsed overnight. I was there to assess the damage and find out which support beam had failed. A young man in a suit that was slightly too tight for him hurried out of his office. "Mr. Mitchell, Kyle," he said, holding out a clammy hand. "You called Kyle." I'd seen him around. He was the new branch manager. He looked nervous. He should be. "I'm here to report a theft," I said, my voice flat. I didn't sit down. $850,000 from my 401k. Kyle swallowed. "Mr. Mitchell, please come into my office. Let's review the accounts." He led me into a small glass room. He sat. I stood. "I've already reviewed them," I said. "PNN Ventures. Every cent. I want to know how you let it happen." Kyle's face went pale. "Mr. Mitchell, I assure you I looked into this as soon as your name appeared on my morning schedule. The transactions. They are all legal." "Legal." The word felt foreign. "Legal. A man's life savings being drained by a company he's never heard of. That's legal." "Sir," Kyle said, his voice dropping. He was scared. He fumbled with a file on his desk, pulling out a single document. He slid it across the desk to me. "We have this on file." I picked it up. It was a photocopy, but it was clear enough. Durable power of attorney. And at the bottom on the signature line, a shaky, spidery scrawl that I recognized. Owen Mitchell. It was my signature. And just like that, the bank office dissolved. I wasn't standing in front of Kyle. I was lying in a hospital bed. The smell of antiseptic and stale coffee. The rhythmic, annoying beep of the heart monitor. The dull, heavy throbbing ache in my right hip, a constant reminder of the titanium replacement I'd just received. 10 months ago. I was 72, groggy and floating on a warm, comfortable cloud of morphine. The door to my room had opened. "Nina." "Oh, Dad," she'd whispered, her voice overflowing with a syrupy concern that I, in my drugged state, mistook for love. "You look so tired." "How's the pain, Foggy?" I remember mumbling. "But I'm okay." She'd smiled, patting my good arm, and then she'd pulled a thick stack of papers from her designer handbag, a stack that would have made me suspicious on any normal day. "Dad, I'm so sorry to bother you with this," she'd said, "but the bank, well, you know how they are. Just a bunch of formalities." She had a pen, one of those expensive-looking ones. "What is it?" I'd asked, my eyes struggling to focus. "Oh, it's a just-in-case form," she'd said, breezing past the words. "It's just so I can help you. You know, to make sure your electric bill gets paid, your property taxes. We wouldn't want you to get a late fee just because you're in here recovering, would we?" "No," I'd said. That's good. Thank you, Nina." "Of course," she'd cooed. She'd fanned the papers out. "It's a lot of nonsense, mostly. Just sign here and initial here." I remember my hand shaking. The pen felt heavy. "Oh, you're all wobbly." She'd laughed a light tinkling sound. Here, let me help you. She had guided my hand. My signature on that day was barely a scribble. And here, and one last one. Here. What? What is this one? I'd asked, pointing at the top page. I'm sure I saw the words, power of attorney. Oh, that's just the main form, she'd said, not missing a beat. It gives me permission to talk to the electric company on your behalf. They won't even talk to me otherwise. It's just for emergencies, Dad. Just while you get back on your feet. I'd signed, and a wave of relief had washed over me. Relief from the paperwork and a deep gratitude. Thank you, Nina, I'd mumbled, sinking back into the pillow. You're a good girl, taking care of this old man. Always, Dad, she'd said, gathering the papers. Always. I blinked. The hospital room vanished. I was back in the bank. Kyle was watching me, his expression a mix of pity and corporate caution. I was holding the document. The weapon. She told me, I said, my voice quiet, it was to pay my electric bill. Kyle looked down. He had no answer. A durable power of attorney, I said, reading the words I had been too drugged to comprehend. It didn't just give her permission to talk to the power company. It gave her the power to be me, to act as me, to sell, to buy, to liquidate, to steal, legally. I carefully folded the document and put it in my coat pocket. I see, I said. Mr. Mitchell. Kyle started, if you believe you were incapacitated when you signed, you can file a complaint with. No, I said, cutting him off. You've been very helpful, Kyle. I turned and walked out of his office. I walked past the tellers, past the welcome mat, and out into the cold morning air. I finally had it. The last piece of the puzzle. They hadn't just robbed me. I had let them. I had signed my own death warrant in a morphine haze, all because I trusted the smile of a woman who shared my son's bed. She hadn't just stolen my money. She had stolen my trust. She had used my love for my family as the crowbar to break open the safe. And now they had to be shown what a real man does when his foundation is attacked. You don't just patch the hole. You rebuild. And you make damn sure the ones who tried to tear you down are never in a position to hold a hammer again. I didn't drive home. I couldn't. The little house Rose and I built was a place of peace, of memory. This was not a day for peace. This was a day for war. My hands were solid on the wheel of my old F-150. The coldness that started in the bank had settled into a hard, dense point in the center of my chest. I drove past the new shiny towers of glass and steel where people like Patrick and Nina made their phantom money. I drove to an old brick building on a side street, the kind with radiators that hiss and windows that actually open. The faded gold leaf on the second-floor window read, Joseph Russo, Attorney at Law. Russo isn't the kind of lawyer Patrick would ever hire. He doesn't have a view. His office doesn't have a receptionist offering sparkling water. It has a secretary, Gloria, who's been with him for 40 years and looks like she could break a man with a single disappointed stare. His office smells of old paper, worn leather, and coffee that's strong enough to strip paint. Russo handled the will when Rose passed. He's the one who looked me in the eye and told me, "Get your affairs in order now, Owen. Trust is good, but paper is better." I guess I didn't listen hard enough. Gloria saw me walk in. She must have seen the look on my face. She didn't ask me if I had an appointment. She just picked up her phone, said, "He's here," and buzzed me through. Russo was on his feet, standing by his massive, cluttered desk. He's a man my age, but he carries the energy of a stressed-out bear. "Owen," he said. It wasn't a greeting. It was an assessment. "You look like hell. Sit." I sat in the hard wooden chair that was probably older than I was. And I told him. I told him everything, and I did it the way I'd build a house foundation first. I told him about the dinner, the cold lamb, the way Patrick wouldn't look at me, The text message from Chloe. Get up and go. I told him about the police car gliding to the curb like a shark. I told him about Nina's face, not of fear, but of disappointment. I told him about Chloe's 2 a.m. call, the wellness check trap, the senior intervention services, the plan to have me declared incompetent. I told him about the tuition, the $12.30 in my 401k, the 50 years of work that had vanished. And then I finished. I reached into my coat pocket. I pulled out the folded copy of the document from the bank. I placed it on his desk right on top of a stack of other people's problems. She told me, I said, my voice hoarse, it was to pay my electric bill at the hospital when I was on morphine. Russo didn't say, I'm so sorry. He didn't offer condolences. He didn't touch the paper. He just stared at me for a long, silent minute. Finally, he spoke. His voice was gravel. Owen, he said, you didn't just give them a key to the house. You gave them the keys to the entire goddamn treasure. He picked up the document. He read every line, his eyes scanning it with a predatory focus. A durable power of attorney. Durable. That's the killer word, Owen. It means it's still valid even if you become incapacitated. It's the strongest one there is. He tossed it back on the desk. As far as the bank is concerned, every transaction was legitimate. As far as the law is concerned, every dollar they took, you took. This piece of paper says you are Patrick and Nina. They were just following your orders. The word legal hit me harder than the theft itself. So that's it, I asked. The cold point in my chest was starting to feel like a black hole. They just win. They steal 50 years of my life, they get away with it, and I'm just the crazy old man with $12. No, Russo said, and his voice changed. It got sharp. They don't win. They win the first battle, maybe. They win the battle for the 401k, but this is a war, Owen. And you don't fight a war by whining. You fight it with better intelligence. He leaned forward, his eyes bright. They legally moved the money, that's fact. But this wasn't a smash and grab. This wasn't a drug addict kid stealing his dad's wallet. This was a plan. This was organized. So we find the plan. He grabbed his phone. He's not a we'll get back to you lawyer. He's a do it now lawyer. He hit a number on his speed dial. Janet, he barked into the receiver. It's Russo. Get me that forensic guy. The one from the Henderson divorce. The one who found the island in the Caymans. Yeah, him. Tell him it's a code red. I need a trail. I'm sending him a bank statement. I need to know everything about PNN Ventures. P as in Patrick. N as in Nina. Yes, I'm serious. Find it. Now. He slammed the phone down. Now we wait. Gloria, he yelled. Get us coffee. Lots of it. The wait was 2 hours. 2 hours is a long time when your life is on hold. I drank 3 cups of Russo's burnt coffee and stared at a framed law degree from 1978. I counted the seconds in my head. Russo's private line, a different phone rang. It was a sharp, old-fashioned bell. He snatched it up. Russo. Yeah, I see. Of course it is. Delaware. And the rest? Washed. Got it. Send me the file. He hung up the phone. He didn't look at me for a long time. He just swiveled his chair and looked out his dirty window at the brick wall of the next building. All right, he said, turning back to me. His face was grim. It's what we thought. The money's gone. It was transferred from your Fidelity account to a corporate account for PNN Ventures. From there, it was scattered, washed through a dozen other accounts. Most of it is probably offshore by now. It's clean. It's gone, Owen. I felt the last bit of air go out of my lungs. But, Russo said, holding up one thick finger, here's the part I don't get. Here's the piece that doesn't fit. He tapped the notes he'd scrawled. They didn't just drain it. They took a very specific amount. $850,000. Exactly. They left the $12. He looked me right in the eye. The hunt was on. This wasn't just to pay off gambling debts, Owen. This is too precise. It's a number with a purpose. The question is, what the hell do they need $850,000 in clean cash for? All at once. I was still in my truck parked in the driveway of my own house. I hadn't gone inside yet. I was staring at the steering wheel, replaying Russo's words in my head. Gone, Owen. Washed. $850,000. The phone in my pocket vibrated, rattling against the worn fabric of my jeans. I looked at the screen. Patrick. Of course. They had failed to get me committed. They had failed to ambush me. Now they were moving to phase 2, the damage control, the next phase of the con. I let it ring. Once. Twice. A third time. I needed to get my head right. I couldn't be the Owen who just left Russo's office, the man armed with lawyers and forensic accountants. I had to be the Owen they expected. The confused, heartbroken, frail old man they had tried to trap last night. I took a deep breath, let it out slow. I picked up on the 4th ring. I said nothing. Dad. Oh my God. Where are you? His voice was high-pitched, panicked. This wasn't the smooth, calculating tone of Nina. This was the voice of my son Patrick, a weak man who was in over his head. He sounded genuinely terrified. Dad, are you there? We were so worried. The police came. The police were at the house. I held the phone away from my ear for a second. I had to get the voice right. I had to sound like the man whose pills were in the truck. Patrick, I said, my voice gravelly. I intentionally made it crack. What's all the yelling? I'm at home. Home, he almost shrieked. Dad, where did you go? You just walked out. In the middle of dinner, Nina was worried sick. She thought you were having a heart episode or something. I wasn't feeling well, I mumbled, playing the part. That lamb, it was too rich. I came home. I took my medicine. I must have fallen asleep. I let the lie sit there, a perfect, plausible excuse from a 73-year-old man. What's this about police son? Silence. A beat of pure, unadulterated hesitation. He was a terrible liar. He always had been. He was panicking, searching for the next line in the script, but he had lost his place. He was expecting me to be there, confused and angry, when the police arrived. He was not prepared for this. The police, well, I heard a muffled sound, a scrambling, and then a sharp whispered, "Give me the phone, you idiot." And just like that, the amateur was out. The professional was in. The sound of the phone changing hands, and then the performance began. Owen. It was Nina. Her voice was thick with emotion, as if she was speaking through tears. It was a masterpiece of vocal control. Oh, Owen, thank God. Thank God you're home. We were terrified. A sob. A perfectly timed, perfectly pitched sob designed to shatter the defenses of a grieving old man. If I hadn't seen her cold, relieved face in the doorway last night, I might have even believed it. If I didn't know about P&N Ventures, I might have felt pity. Nina, I said, playing my part. What's wrong? Why are you crying? What's going on? Oh, Dad. She sniffed, and I could practically hear her dabbing a tissue at her dry eyes. We were so scared. When you left, you looked so pale. And then not 10 minutes later, the police at the door. We thought something terrible had happened to you. We thought, oh God. We didn't know what to think. You liar. The words formed in my head, cold and sharp. You knew exactly what to think. You're the one who called them. You were just angry your trap was empty. But I said nothing. I just made a small, confused sound. The police go so, but why Chomo? We don't know, Bao. She lied again, seamless. They said they got an anonymous tip about a disturbed elderly man at our address. Can you imagine someone must be playing a horrible joke? She was good. She was covering her tracks, blaming an anonymous tip in case I ever investigated. She took a shuddering breath. But Dad, maybe it was a blessing in disguise. What do you mean? Because we have to tell you something. We were going to tell you last night. That's what we were trying to do. That's why we wanted to have this nice dinner. But, oh God, it's all such a mess. I stayed silent. I let her spin the web. I let her hang herself with her own lies. It's Patrick, she whispered as if she was sharing a terrible, painful secret. Oh Dad, he made some mistakes. Some bad business decisions. I pictured Russo's face. What do they need $850K for? He got in. Deep. Nina continued, her voice breaking beautifully. With some very, very bad people, Dad. People who don't care about the law. They were threatening us. Threatening our home. Threatening... Her voice caught. Threatening Chloe. And there it is. The master stroke. The final turn of the screw. Use my granddaughter. Use the one person in that family I truly love as a human shield for their own greed. The coldness in my chest flared into a white-hot point of rage. But I banked it. I swallowed it. I let the confused old man stay in control of my voice. Chloe, I whispered. They threatened Chloe. We didn't know what to do. She wailed, the tears flowing freely now, a torrent of crocodile tears. We were drowning. Patrick was a wreck. He was going to lose everything. The house, the family. Our family, Dad. So, she said, her voice dropping as if in shame. I had to do something. We had to do something. We had no choice. Here it comes. The big lie. The one that's meant to cover the $12.30. We had to borrow from your retirement fund. Borrow. The word just hung there. Not steal, not embezzle, not commit felony-level fraud against a trusting old man who was lying in a hospital bed. Borrow. A clean, simple, sanitized word to cover the filth of what they had done. We knew you'd help us if you understood, she cried, the words tumbling out. But we were so ashamed. We couldn't bear to tell you. We just needed to fix the problem to save the family. It was the only way. We took the money to pay them off, Dad. The bad men are gone. We're safe. Patrick is safe. Chloe is safe. All thanks to you. I waited. I let the silence stretch. I let her wonder if I had hung up, if I had collapsed. I needed her to fill the silence. Dad, are you there? Please say something. Please don't hate us. You took the money, I said, my voice hollow, as if the life had been drained from it. My 401k. We'll pay it back, she blurted out way too quickly. The promise of a desperate liar. Every single cent, Dad, I swear on everything we have, we will pay it back. She'd almost said it. She'd almost sworn on Rose's grave. The rage I was holding down almost broke free. Don't you dare. It's just, she said, her voice suddenly small, fragile, the hook landing after the bait. We fixed the immediate problem. The bad men are gone. But we just need one more thing. One more favor, Dad, and I swear we will spend the rest of our lives making this right for you. Please. I closed my eyes. I saw the $850,000. I saw Russo's confused face. It was a number with a purpose. And I finally understood. The 850K wasn't the goal. It was just the buy-in. It was just the first part of the con. And now, after all the lies, all the tears, and all the theater, here was the real reason for the call. "What?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. "What do you need?" I stayed silent. I let that last desperate, "What do you need?" hang in the air between us. I needed her to say it. I needed to hear the words. Nina's voice, which had been a torrent of fake tears, suddenly became very calm, very focused. The actress was gone. The closer had just stepped in. "The land, Dad," she said, her voice dropping to a confidential, reasonable whisper. "The land out in West County." The land. My fingers, which were gripping the steering wheel of my truck, tightened. I could feel the old worn leather against my skin. What land?" I asked, playing dumb. "You know," she said with a little impatient sigh, "that big empty property you and Rose bought. Years ago, it's just sitting there, Dad. It's just woods. It's not doing anything. It's not helping anyone." Not helping anyone. I closed my eyes. And I wasn't in my truck anymore. I was standing with Rose, my Rose. Her hair was still brown back in 1975. We were standing on a hill looking out over 500 acres of untouched Virginia forest. Oaks, hickories, and a little creek that ran through the valley. It had taken every dime we had and we'd bought it. It wasn't an investment. It was a promise. It was our sanctuary. It was the place I took Patrick camping. It was the place I taught Chloe how to identify a cardinal's call. It was the place I had scattered Rose's ashes under the biggest, oldest oak tree on the property. And Nina just called it empty property. She just called it woods. "Dad," she said, her voice sharpening, pulling me from the memory. "Are you listening?" "I'm here," I said. My voice was just a rasp. "It's the solution, Dad," she said, her voice brightening again, sensing the close. "It's the only way we can make this right. We sell it. We sell the land, we pay you back the $850,000, we pay off the last of Patrick's mistakes, and we're free. The family is whole again." There it was. The hook. They had borrowed $850K. Now they were offering to pay it back by selling an asset of mine worth $20 million. The math was obscene. It was the logic of a predator. They'd steal $1 from my right pocket, then offer to give it back to me by taking $100 from my left. And the change, the $19 million left over, that would just conveniently be managed by them. "Think about it, Dad." She pushed her voice full of false enthusiasm. "You could finally relax. You could stop worrying about that big empty house, all that land. You could move in with us into the new guest wing. We'd take care of you. We want to take care of you." The cage. The glass cage they had offered me last night. That was my reward for giving them my entire legacy. A room in their marble mausoleum. To be taken care of. Like a pet. Or a prisoner. "The land," I said, my voice thick with an emotion she would mistake for grief and confusion. "Nina, that's Rose's place." "I know, honey. I know," she said, her voice dripping with that poisonous sympathy. "And don't you think Rose would want this? She would want the family to be safe. She would want Patrick to be okay. She would want you to be taken care of. This is what she would have wanted." That was the one. The one line too far. Using my dead wife's memory to justify the desecration of her sanctuary. The white-hot rage I had been banking the cold steel in my chest, it all focused into a single sharp point. But my voice remained the old man's. I have to think, Nina," I whispered. This is too much." "Of course, Dad. Of course," she said, her voice smooth, confident. She knew she had me. She thought she'd won. You think about it. But don't think too long. We need to move fast. For the family. She hung up. I sat in the silence of my truck. The hook was set. They wanted the land. They hadn't just stolen my 401k. They had stolen the exact amount of money I had told Patrick in passing that I had set aside. The money I'd calculated to the dollar that I would need to pay the capital gains tax when I finally sold the property. And now I finally understood. This was the true trap. They didn't just want the land. They wanted to leave me with nothing. Not even the $12. This was the endgame. I ended the call with Nina. My hand was rock steady. The feigned tears, the borrowing, the one more favor, it all clicked into place. It was a number with a purpose. Russo had said it. $850,000. My son and his wife weren't just thieves. They were architects. I didn't call Chloe. I didn't sit and stare. I hit the number 1 speed dial on my phone. The line clicked. Russo. He didn't say hello. They want the land, I said. My voice was flat, cold. What land? Russo barked. What did they say? The land, the West County property. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Russo knew my finances. He'd handled Rose's will. He knew exactly what the land meant. Owen, he started, but I cut him off. They want me to sell it. I said the words coming out clear and precise. Nina just gave me a whole performance. Crying, begging. Said they borrowed the 401k to pay off loan sharks who were threatening Chloe. Said they'd pay me back every cent. All I have to do is sell the land. Russo was silent. But I knew what he was doing. He was a man who thought in spreadsheets and legal clauses. He was running the numbers. I explained it to him anyway. I had to say it out loud to give voice to the sheer diabolical brilliance of their plan. You know what that land is, Russo. Rose and I bought it in 1975. 500 acres of nothing but forest. We paid pennies for it. It was our place. It was our promise. I looked out the truck window at the asphalt of my driveway. I could see the creek. I could smell the pine needles after a rain. I could see Rose's face as she watched a hawk circle overhead. It was our legacy, I whispered. And now, I said, my voice hardening, because Fairfax has sprawled all the way to hell and back, that empty property is sitting on a new highway interchange. It's not worth pennies anymore. It's worth $20 million. Owen, don't you dare, Russo started. They know, I said. That's the point. They know. And then I laid the final piece. The one piece Russo couldn't have known. The piece that made the entire horrifying picture complete. Russo, I said, that money they stole, the $850,000 from my 401k. It's gone, Owen, washed. I know, I said, but it wasn't my retirement money. Not really. I mean, it was, but it had a job. What job? A few months ago, I mentioned to Patrick. Stupid. I mentioned I was thinking of selling the land, paying the tax, and giving the rest to a conservation charity in Rose's name. He asked me how that worked. How much tax you'd pay on a sale that big. I closed my eyes. The shame of my own blind trust was like a physical weight. Russo, that $850,000, that was my tax money. I had that exact amount calculated down to the goddamn cent sitting in that liquid 401k account. It was the money I had set aside specifically to pay the federal and state capital gains tax the moment the sale went through. Silence. A long, heavy, terrible silence on the other end of the line. And then a single soft, "Oh my God." Russo saw it. "It's not a coincidence, is it?" I said, my voice dead. "It's a trap," Russo whispered. "It's a goddamn tax trap." I laid it out piece by bloody piece. Step 1. I said like a contractor reading a blueprint. They know I have a $20 million asset, and they know I have the $850K in cash to pay the tax on it. Step 2. They steal the tax money. They use that document to liquidate my 401K and wash the cash. They take my tax payment completely off the board. Step 3. They call me. They cry. They feed me a story about loan sharks and saving the family to justify the borrowing. They get me scared. They get me emotional. Step 4. They pressure me. One more favor, Dad. Sell the land. Sell it now. It's the only way to save us. The only way to pay us back. Step 5. I said the words tasting like ash. I sell. The $20 million check clears. I'm sitting on a mountain of cash. I took a breath. And then what, Russo? What happens the next day? The IRS. Russo's voice was grim. The IRS sees a $20 million capital gain. And they see no tax payment. They want their cut. And they want it now. And I can't pay it, I said, because my tax money, my $850,000, is gone. It's in a bank in Delaware under PNN Ventures. They'll freeze you, Russo said, his voice rising. The second you miss that payment, the IRS will lock down everything. They'll put a lien on the $20 million. They'll freeze your bank. They'll freeze your house. They'll freeze your $12.30. You'll be paralyzed, buried in penalties, drowning in legal trouble. And then I delivered the final killing blow, the checkmate. And right when that happens, I said, right when the confused old man is panicked, screaming that the IRS is taking everything, who steps in to help? I could hear Russo's sharp intake of breath. Them, I said. Patrick and Nina. They'll swoop in. Don't worry, Dad. We'll handle the lawyers. We'll manage the accounts. And they'll use that same power of attorney, or worse, the incompetence card they tried to play last night, to rescue me. They'll manage the $20 million. They'll manage me right into that glass cage they call a guest room. They'll take everything. And they'll do it, legally. It was a perfect plan. It was brilliant. It was cold. It was absolute. They weren't just thieves. They weren't just liars. They were trying to erase me. I sat there in my truck holding a dead phone. Russo had hung up, but it didn't matter. I had just looked at the blueprint of my own execution. And now I knew. You don't fight a plan like this by crying. You fight it by building a better one. I sat in my truck, the blueprint of my own execution laid out in my mind. The IRS trap, the incompetence card, the $20 million. It was a perfect plan, a work of art in its own sociopathic way. I started the engine. The old V8 rumbled to life. They thought they were building a cage for me. They were wrong. They were just giving me the blueprints. And I'm a contractor. I know blueprints. I know how to find the load-bearing wall. I know where the weak points are. And I know how to set a demolition charge. I picked up the phone. I hit speed dial 1. Russo, he answered. He sounded like he'd been pacing. Owen. What's next? I'm drafting a revocation for that POA right now. We'll have it filed in an hour. No, I said. My voice was calm. The cold, hard point of steel in my chest was now my guide. What do you mean, no? He barked. They have the keys to the kingdom, Owen. We have to lock the damn door. You're right, I said. They have the keys, and a thief with a key is arrogant. They don't check the locks. If we revoke that paper right, Mo, they'll know. They'll know I'm onto them. The plan will change. They'll panic. They'll disappear. The money will be gone for good. Owen, that's a hell of a risk, Russo said, his voice low. It's a hell of a trap, I countered. Russo, they want the land. They just called and asked for it. They're not just thieves, they're greedy. They're not happy with $850K. They want the whole $20 million. And greed Greed makes people stupid. Greed makes them sloppy. I took a breath. So here's the new plan. You and I, we do nothing. We let them think I'm the broken, confused old man they tried to trap last night. We let them think I'm falling for their save the family story. We're going to let them lead us right to the finish line. And then what? Russo asked. And then, well, I said, I'm going to give them exactly what they want. I'm going to give them the land. Went silence. I could hear Russo breathing on the other end of the line. Owen, he said, and his voice was full of genuine concern. Have you lost your mind? No, Joe, I said, using his first name for the first time in years. I've just found my footing. Don't file the revocation. Not yet. Just wait for my next call. We're playing this out. I hung up before he could argue. I took one more deep breath. I had to let go of Owen the contractor, Owen the widower, Owen the father. I had to become the character they had written for me. The confused old man. The burden. The man who was too old to worry. I found Nina's number in my phone. I pressed the call button. My hand, which had been steady, I intentionally made shake. I put the phone to my ear, and when I spoke, I let all the air out of my voice. I made it tremble. It rang twice. She picked up instantly. She was waiting. Dad, she said, her voice sharp. Is everything okay? Did you think about it? I made a sound. A small wet sound. A sniffle. A sob. Dad. Nina. I whispered, and I let my voice crack, filled with a lifetime of engineered sadness. Nina, you're right. I let that hang there. I'm right about what Dad... She asked, her voice cautious, but I could hear the excitement underneath it. The predator, sensing the prey, had just given up. You're right about everything, I whispered, putting all the fake exhaustion of 73 years into it. I'm so tired, Nina. I'm just so tired. I'm old. I'm too old for all this. For money. For taxes. For all this fighting. I manufactured another sob. Rose. Rose always handled this stuff. I can't do it alone. I can't. Oh. Dad, she said, and her voice was now pure, uncut sympathy. But it wasn't for me. It was for her future. She was comforting her new bank account. You're a good girl, Nina. I whispered the words, tasting like poison in my mouth. You're trying to save the family. Just like you said. You're trying to save Patrick. Rose would have wanted that. You were right. I could hear her exhale. A sharp gasp of victory. I had just handed her the moral justification she needed. The land, I said, my voice sounding weak and thin. The land in West County. You're right. It's just woods. It's just sitting there. Rose is gone. It's just holding on to ghosts. It's not helping anyone. Oh, Dad, she breathed. You're doing the right thing. The right thing for everyone. You sell it, I said, a tear of pure, unadulterated acting rolling down my cheek. You and Patrick, you take the land. You do what you have to do. You fix this. You pay back the money you borrowed, and you take care of the rest. You manage it. I'm too old. I'm done. The dam broke. Oh, Dad. Yes. Thank you. It wasn't a whisper. It was a cheer. The mask was off. The triumphant, greedy, victorious woman was on full display. She wasn't even hiding it. Thank you. Thank you, Dad. You won't regret this. This is the right choice. This solves everything. Oh God. Patrick will be so relieved. I could hear her on the other end, already calculating her share of the $19 million. You just tell me what to do, I said, playing the final card of the beaten man. You set it up, Nina. Whatever papers. You set it up. I'll sign. I just want it to be over. Of course, she said, her voice all business now, all efficiency. The tears were gone. The executive was here. Don't you worry about a thing. I'll handle it all. In fact, I could hear the clicking of a computer keyboard in the background. She was already working. In fact, she said, I already spoke to our lawyer. Just in case you agreed. Just to see what our options were. Our lawyer. Not my lawyer, hers. He's all ready for us, Dad, she said, her voice a sugary, sweet poison. He's drawn up the papers. A simple transfer. It just moves the land into a new trust. One that Patrick and I can manage for you to make the sale easier. It's just a formality. Okay, I whispered. Whatever you say, honey. Can you do Friday? She asked. This Friday at 10 a.m. That fast. 3 days. They weren't just greedy. They were in a hurry. His office is in Tyson's, she said. I'll text you the address, 10 a.m. Just you, Dad. We don't need to bother anyone else with this. We'll just keep it in the family. Keep Russo out of it is what she meant. I took a final shaky, defeated breath. Okay, Nina, I said. Friday, 10 a.m. You're a lifesaver, Dad, she said. You're the best. Yeah, I said, and I hung up the phone. I sat in my truck for a full minute. The performance was over. The actor was gone. The contractor was back. Friday, I said to the empty truck. 10 a.m. I started the engine. I had work to do. I had 3 days to build a trap. The call with Nina ended. I sat in my truck for a full minute, the engine rumbling. Friday, I said to the empty cab. 10 a.m. I put the truck in gear and drove. I didn't go home. I went straight back to the brick building, straight back to Russo. I walked past Gloria. She just nodded like she was expecting me. I walked into Russo's office. He was on the phone yelling at someone. He saw my face, held up a finger, and then said into the phone, "You heard me. Do it." He slammed it down. "Well," he barked, "you look like you just saw a ghost." "I just invited one in," I said. "I'm playing the part, Joe. I'm the confused, broken old man. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm giving them the land." Russo's face went white. "Owen, you didn't—" "I told them I'd sign," I said, cutting him off. "I told them to set it up. The meeting is Friday, 10 a.m., at their lawyer's office. They're walking me in to sign the transfer." Russo stared at me for a full 10 seconds. A slow smile spread across his face. It was not a nice smile. "You old bastard," he said with genuine admiration. "You're going to let them set up their own execution. I love it." "But we have to move," I said. "We have 3 days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday." "Right," Russo said. He was all business. He grabbed a legal pad. "The plan. What's the plan?" "First," I said, "thought the power of attorney. You said you were revoking it." "I'll have a messenger file the revocation at the county court right now," Russo said, reaching for his phone. "No," I said. "You'll do better. You will draft the revocation of the power of attorney. You will sign it. I will sign it. Gloria will notarize it, and you will date it for yesterday, Monday. Before I ever agreed to this meeting. Before Nina's phone call. Russo raised an eyebrow. Backdating a document, Owen, I'm not asking you to file it. I'm asking you to prepare it. I corrected him. It's our ace in the hole. We keep it. We don't file it. We just have it. Legally, it's a revocation signed and notarized dated before their meeting. It proves my intent. But the public record stays clean. They won't check because they're arrogant. But if they do, they'll see the POA is still active. They'll walk into that meeting on Friday feeling safe. Russo's smile widened. You're a devious man, Owen Mitchell. I like it. He buzzed for Gloria. Get your stamp. We've got work to do. 10 minutes later, the revocation was signed, stamped, and dated for Monday. Russo put the original in his office safe. Ace in the hole, he said, patting the steel door. What's next? Next, I said, is the land. I picked up Russo's other phone. Get me the State Parks Conservatory. I need to speak to the director. Harrison. We've spoken before. Russo's eyes went wide. Owen, you're not... They want a tax trap, I said, as Russo's secretary patched me through. We're going to disarm it. We're going to take the bullet out of the gun. The line clicked. Mr. Harrison, please, this is Owen Mitchell. There was a pause. Owen, good to hear from you. How are you? I've been better, Director, I said. I'm calling about our conversation last year. About the West County property. The 500 acres. Yes, of course, Harrison said, his voice becoming more formal. A beautiful piece of land. As I said, if you ever consider. I said. I'm giving it to you. Silence. Complete silence. Owen. Harrison said, his voice cautious. I think I misheard you. A donation of that size. All of it, Sean, I said. The full 500 acres. I'm donating it to the State Parks Conservatory. No money, no exchange. A full charitable donation. My God, Harrison breathed. Owen, that's a $20 million gift. That's the single largest donation in the history of the Virginia park system. I have 2 conditions, I said, my voice like iron. Yes, anything, Harrison said. First, I want it named. The Rose Mitchell Memorial Preserve. Done, Harrison said, his voice thick with emotion. It would be an honor. Second, I said, and this is the hard one. It has to be done. Not talked about. Not in committee. I mean signed, sealed, delivered, and filed with the county recorder by 5 p.m. this Thursday. The silence was back, but this time it was tense. Owen, Harrison said, that's impossible. A land transfer of this magnitude. The state legal department, the title searches the environmental reviews. It takes months, sometimes years. You have 3 days, I said. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. My lawyer is Joseph Russo. He's sitting right here. He has the original deed from 1975. He has the surveys. We will give your team everything you need. You want this land, you get it done by Thursday. Otherwise, the deal is off. I was bluffing, but he didn't know that. This is a tax trap, Owen, Russo whispered to me, his hand over the receiver. You give this away, you get a massive tax deduction. You won't owe the IRS a dime. You'll be getting a refund for the rest of your life. I nodded. That was the point. Harrison came back on the line. Mr. Mitchell, Owen, my team is already on their way. Send us what you have. We'll make it happen. We will not sleep. Good, I said. Neither will we. I hung up. Russo looked at me. Do you have any idea what you just started? A race, I said, and we're not going to lose. Wednesday was a blur. It was a hurricane of paper. Russo's office became a war room. He brought in 2 other lawyers from his firm, land use specialists, who looked like they hadn't seen sunlight in a decade. The state sent their top 3 attorneys. The conference table was buried in maps, deeds, and title reports from 1975. I sat in the corner, drinking burnt coffee and signing my name. Mr. Mitchell, we need you to sign the initial grant deed. Mr. Mitchell, this is the affidavit of clear title. Mr. Mitchell, this is the environmental waiver. My hand, the one that had held a hammer for 50 years, was cramping. I felt like I was signing my life away. You are Owen, Russo said, dropping another file in front of me. You're signing the old one away. Now this one. This is the statement of donation. You need to write in your own words why you are doing this, for the record. And he handed me a pen. I wrote. I wrote about Rose. I wrote about the promise we made in 1975. I wrote about the creek and the old oak tree and the hawks. I wrote that this land was her soul and that it belonged to everyone, not to the greed of a few. As I was finishing, my cell phone rang. My personal phone. The flip phone. It was Patrick. My blood ran cold. I motioned to Russo, who went silent. I stepped into the hallway. I had to be the old man. I had to be the victim. I let my voice tremble. Hello. Dad. Hey, just checking in. He sounded cheerful. He sounded like a man who was about to win the lottery. Oh, hi, Patrick, I said, leaning against the wall, pretending to be weak. I'm not feeling great. Oh no, what's wrong? He asked. But there was no real concern. It was just a script. Just my heart. It's been fluttering, I said. This whole thing, son, it's a lot. I'm glad it's going to be over. Exactly, he said, bright and breezy. That's why I'm calling. You're doing the right thing, Dad. The right thing for the family. Nina is she's just so relieved. We all are. She's a good girl. I lied, the words tasting like acid. Taking care of everything. She's the best, he said. So, we're still on for Friday 10 a.m. Yes, son, I said. I'll be there. I have to go. I'm just very tired. Okay, Dad. You get some rest. And hey, you don't need to bring anyone you know like Russo or any of those guys. It's just a simple signing. Just us. Just family. Keep it in the family. Okay, son, I whispered. Just family. I hung up. I walked back into the conference room. Russo looked at me. They're checking the trap, I said. They're making sure the bait is still there. Good, Russo growled. Let them. Now sign this. It's the final transfer deed. Thursday, D-Day. By 11 a.m. the final packet was assembled. It was 6 inches thick, Mr. Harrison from the conservatory arrived, his suit rumpled, looking like he hadn't slept in 2 days. He had a checkbook. What's that for? I asked. The filing fee, Harrison said. For the county, it's $1. He shook my hand, his grip firm. Mr. Mitchell, on behalf of the people of Virginia, I'm speechless. This is a legacy. Just make sure her name is on the sign, I said. We signed, I signed, Harrison signed, Russo and the state's lawyer signed as witnesses. It was 1:00 p.m. It's done, Harrison said, beaming. No, it's not, Russo said, grabbing the packet. It's signed, but it's not real. It's not real until it's filed with the county recorder. If we don't get this stamped by 5 p.m. today, it's just a stack of paper. He looked at me. If Nina's lawyer files his transfer at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and this isn't in the system, a judge will have a nightmare trying to figure out who owns what. We have to be first. We have to be official. He handed the packet to a young junior lawyer, a kid who looked like he was about to run a marathon. Go, Russo ordered. Go to the courthouse. Do not stop. Do not talk to anyone. Get this to the recorder's desk. Get the stamp. Call me the second it's done. The kid ran out of the office, and we waited. 2 p.m. Nothing. 3 p.m. Nothing. 3:30 p.m. I was pacing. What's taking so long? It's just a stamp. It's a government office on a Thursday afternoon, Owen, Russo said, but he was checking his watch too. It's not a place known for speed. At 3:45 p.m. Russo's phone rang. It was the runner. Russo put him on speaker. Mr. Russo, there's a problem. My heart stopped. What problem? Russo barked. The line. It was huge, the kid stammered. I finally got to the desk. The clerk, a guy named Henderson, he says a multi-parcel donation of this size needs a 48-hour administrative review. What? I said. He says he can't stamp it today. The kid said, his voice panicked. He says it's too complex for an end-of-day filing. He told me to come back on Monday. Monday, I whispered. It would be too late. Friday at 10 a.m. I would be signing away land I still legally owned. Russo's face was a dark, thunderous cloud. Henderson, Russo growled, his voice a low threat. That lazy bureaucratic. He's not complex, he's lazy. He wants to go home early. Russo grabbed his own coat. Son, you stay right there. Don't move. I'm coming. Russo looked at me. I'm going to the courthouse. I'm coming with you, I said. No, you stay here. You need to be clean. This is the part of the job I get paid for. This is the legal part. He was gone. I sat in Russo's office. Harrison sat with me. We didn't talk, we just waited. 4 p.m., 4:15 p.m., 4:30 p.m. The courthouse closed at 5. At 4:45 p.m. my phone rang. It was Russo. I snatched it. Joe, it's done, Russo said. He sounded exhausted. What, how? Let's just say, Russo said that Mr. Henderson and I have a long history. I reminded him of a certain zoning variance he approved back in '98. The one that, if it ever came to light, would be very complex for his pension. Joe. He suddenly found the time, Russo said, cutting me off. He reviewed it. He stamped it. He recorded it. It's in the system. As of 4:42 p.m. Thursday, November 2nd, he took a deep breath. Owen Mitchell, you are officially a man of very modest means. You own your house, your truck, and $12.30. You no longer own 1 square inch of land in West County. I sat down. A wave of something washed over me. Not victory, not sadness, relief. It was done. Thank you, Joe, I whispered. Don't thank me yet, Russo said. You've got a big day tomorrow. Go home, get some sleep. Remember the plan. What's the plan? I asked. You're the old man, Russo said. You're confused, you're tired, you're sad. You go to that meeting, you let them talk. You let them walk right into the room. Let them say everything they want to say. Let them hang themselves. And then, you just be the man who has nothing left to lose. Because as of right now, you're not. Okay, I said. Friday, 10 a.m. I hung up. The trap was built. The bait was gone. Now all I had to do was wait for the rats to show up. The land was gone. The Rose Mitchell Memorial Preserve was officially filed, stamped, and recorded. It was Thursday evening, 4:46 p.m. The race was over. Harrison, the director from the conservatory, had actually hugged me, tears in his eyes, before he and his legal team cleared out. Russo and I were left alone in his conference room, which looked like a bomb of legal paper had detonated. We sat in the silence. So, Russo finally said, rubbing his eyes from exhaustion. It's done. You're a poor man, Owen. Congratulations. I'm a man who's $12.30 richer than I was this morning, Joe, I said. I felt light. The $20 million target was gone. I had taken it off the table. But it's not over. Russo nodded, his face grim. No, it's not. He picked up his phone. He wasn't celebrating. He was moving to the next target. He hit a number on his speed dial. Janet, he barked into the phone. It's Russo. Listen, the big bomb has been disarmed. Now I want to go back and collect the shrapnel. He was talking to the forensic accountant, the one who had found PNN Ventures. That Delaware shell company, Russo continued. I need the full workup. We found the $850K in. Now I want to know about the $850K out. I want to see every wire transfer, every check. Did they pay off a credit card? Did they buy a car? Did they pay off a loan shark? I want a paper trail so clean and so obvious that a district attorney could use it as a coloring book. I want to know exactly what my client's life savings were spent on. He listened for a moment. I don't care. I need it on my desk in a finalized report by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Yes, 9 a.m. We're going hunting. He slammed the phone down. He looked at me. The land donation. That was Defense Owen. That was stopping the next crime. The $20 million tax trap. That's gone. He leaned forward, his eyes like steel. But the $850K, that's the first crime. That's the original theft. That's felony grand larceny, elder abuse, and wire fraud. We've disarmed the trap they set for you. Now we get the IRS ready for the trap we're setting for them. Tomorrow, when they walk into that meeting, they'll be trying to steal land you don't own. But they'll still be guilty of stealing $850K in income they didn't declare. Russo was right. This wasn't just about saving the land. This was about justice. The final piece of the legal puzzle was in motion. Now it was time for me to move the final piece of the personal one. I stepped out of the conference room into the quiet hallway while Russo started organizing the mountain of paper. I pulled out my old flip phone. It felt useless now. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a brand new prepaid burner phone I had bought for cash at a 7-Eleven that morning. I also had a prepaid credit card activated and clean, a just-in-case plan. I turned it on. The only number I'd entered was Chloe's. I pressed call. She picked up on the very first ring, her voice a terrified whisper. Grandpa, oh my God, I've been calling your flip phone. It's just... Are you okay? Did they do something else? Her voice. That brave, scared voice that had saved me. It cut right through the cold, calculating contractor I had been for the last 3 days. Chloe, I said, and my own voice was softer. I'm fine, sweetheart. I'm more than fine. I am fixing it. Fixing what, Grandpa? What's going on? You sound different. I need you to listen to me. I said, my voice firm but not cold. Not for her. I need you to do exactly as I say. No questions. Not yet. I just need you to trust me. Can you do that? Of course, Grandpa, she said without hesitation. Always. Good girl, I said. I'm sending a text message to your phone. It has a credit card number in it. It's new. It's clean. They don't know about it. I want you to go online right now and book the first flight you can get from your university airport to Reagan National. Tomorrow morning. Friday. Silence. Tomorrow, she whispered. Grandpa, I have midterms. I have an econ final at 2. I can't just leave. Yes, you can, I said. This is more important than economics, Chloe. You started this. You're the one who sent that text. You saved my life. I need you. I want you here. For the end. I heard her take a shaky breath. The end. The end of what? A surprise, I said. A family meeting. Now listen, this is the most important part. Do not under any circumstances call your parents. Do not text them. They must not know you are in town. When you land at Reagan, a car will be waiting for you. The driver's name will be Russo. He's one of Joe's men. He will be your security. Security, Grandpa, you're scaring me. It's just a precaution, I said. He will drive you directly to Mr. Russo's office. Not my house, not theirs. You go straight to Russo's office. Do you understand? Yes, Russo's office. What time, what's happening? I looked at the clock on the wall. I calculated. My meeting, my execution at their lawyer's office, was at 10 a.m. I want you to be at Mr. Russo's office at 10:30 a.m., I said. Not a minute before. 10:30. Why so specific? Grandpa, what happens at 10:00? At 10:00, I said, your father and I have a final business meeting. At 10:30, I want you to be there. I'm adjusting my will. I'm fixing the inheritance. And I want you to be the witness. What? I'm fixing your tuition, honey, I said, my voice softening again. The money they stole, it's gone. But I'm fixing everything. You just be there. Be the future Chloe. Okay, Grandpa, she said. Her voice was steady now. She was her grandmother's girl through and through. I'll be there. 10:30. I love you, Chloe. More than you know. I love you too. I hung up the phone. The final piece was set. The legal trap, the land, and now the heir. All the pieces were on the board. Friday, 10 a.m. The game was on. Friday, 10 a.m. I walked into the lobby. It wasn't a law office, it was a statement. It was on the 20th floor of a glass tower in Tyson's Corner. The lobby was a vast, echoing expanse of white marble and brushed steel. The receptionist, who looked more like a model, didn't even ask my name. She just smiled a cold, plastic smile and said, Mr. Mitchell. They're expecting you, conference room A. She pointed. I played my part. I shuffled my feet a little. I leaned on the cane. I didn't need one I'd bought at a drugstore that morning. I let myself look old, confused, and intimidated by the sheer cold wealth of the place. I pushed open the heavy glass door. And there they were. They were sitting on one side of a mahogany table that was long enough to land a small plane on. The room had a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the rest of Northern Virginia. It was a room designed to make you feel small. Patrick jumped up. Dad, you made it. Oh, we were so glad you were coming. He rushed over, grabbing my arm in a grip that was supposed to be supportive but was really just proprietary. He was guiding his asset to the chair. Of course, son, I mumbled, letting him steer me. I said I would. Nina didn't get up. She just sat there, beaming. She was wearing a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my first truck. She looked relaxed, victorious, like a predator that had just finished a long, difficult hunt and was finally sitting down to the meal. Oh, Dad, she said, her voice smooth as butter. We're so glad you're here. We're so proud of you for making the hard choice, for the family. For the family. The words echoed in the sterile room, and then I saw the third man. He sat at the head of the table. He was in his late 40s with perfect hair, a perfect suit, and a smile that didn't have an ounce of warmth. He was a shark. This was their lawyer. Dad, Patrick said, gesturing. This is Mr. Slade. He's our guy. He's going to help us with all the paperwork. Slade stood up. He glided, he didn't walk. He extended a manicured hand. Mr. Mitchell, an absolute pleasure. I'm just here to make this transition as smooth as possible for you. Transition. Like I was a dying man being moved to hospice. I let my hand tremble as I shook his. His grip was firm, dry, and completely impersonal. Let's get started, shall we? Slade said, smiling at Nina like they were sharing a private joke. We all sat. Patrick and Nina sat on one side, a united front. I sat on the other, the confused old man alone with his ghosts. Slade opened a beautiful leather-bound portfolio. He slid a stack of paper across the polished table. It was thick, at least 20 pages bound by a blue legal cover. Now, Mr. Mitchell, Slade began, his voice a soothing, patronizing drone. This is just a formality, a simple document to make everything easier for you. As Nina and Patrick explained, you're transitioning your assets. This simply moves the West County property. He tapped the cover. From your name into a new secure family trust, the Mitchell Legacy Trust. It's just housekeeping. It puts Patrick and Nina in a managerial role so they can handle the stress of the sale for you. You won't have to worry about a single thing. No calls, no lawyers, no taxes. You just sign, and you can finally well retire. I looked at the document. 20 pages. I thought about the 6-inch stack of paper I had signed on Wednesday. The affidavits, the deeds, the environmental waivers. I looked at Slade's simple document. I knew what this was. I'd had Russo's paralegal look up the Mitchell Legacy Trust that morning, just on a hunch. It existed. Nina had filed the paperwork a week ago, and the trustees, Patrick Mitchell and Nina Mitchell, the beneficiary, their shell corporation, PNN Ventures. This wasn't a transfer. This wasn't housekeeping. This was the final signature on the theft. This was the document that would, if I signed it legally, move my $20 million land into their hands for the price of nothing. They would then manage the sale, and the money would land directly in their trust, which would then pay PNN Ventures, and I would be left with a nothing. It was brilliant, and it was pure evil. It's a lot of pages, I mumbled, flipping the cover. I put on my reading glasses, playing the part. I squinted at the dense legal text. Oh, it's just standard boilerplate, Dad, Patrick said a little too quickly. Legal nonsense. Slade just said it's just to help us help you. He's right, Owen, Nina said, her voice soft. It's just a piece of paper. The important thing is what it represents. It represents family. It represents us all together moving forward. It's the right thing. I looked up at her. She was smiling, that bright, beautiful, empty smile. She thought she had won. She was sitting 3 feet away from a $19 million payday. Slade the Shark saw his opening. He slid a heavy, expensive-looking fountain pen across the table. It stopped perfectly right in front of my hand. If you'll just sign on the last page, Mr. Mitchell, Slade said, his voice smooth, and initial at the bottom of each, we can have this all filed by lunch. Patrick was leaning forward, his eyes fixed on the pen. Nina was holding her breath. I could see the pulse beating in her throat. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. This was it, the moment of my execution. The final act of the confused old man. I looked at the 20-page lie. I looked at the pen. I looked at my son, his face a mask of greedy anticipation. I looked at my daughter-in-law, her eyes shining with triumph. I slowly put my hands on the table. I looked at Slade, and then I held up one steady hand. Wait. The room was absolutely silent. The expensive pen lay on the table between us. Patrick was leaning forward, his mouth slightly open, waiting for me to take it. Nina was frozen, her bright, triumphant smile just beginning to curdle at the edges. She had been interrupted. The kill had been delayed. Even Slade the Shark looked momentarily thrown. His own rhythm was broken. Mr. Mitchell, Slade said, his smooth voice developing a tiny edge. Is there a problem with the pen? No, I said. I pushed my chair back. The legs made a scraping sound on the marble floor, and I stood up. I stood up straight, all the way. I didn't use the cane. I didn't groan. I didn't lean on the table. I let go of the confused old man I had been playing for 3 days, and I simply stood there as Owen Mitchell. 73 years old, a contractor who had built things and who knew how to tear them down. Patrick's eyes widened. He'd never seen me stand this straight. "Dad," he said, his voice hesitant. Nina's eyes narrowed. She knew this man. This wasn't the broken victim she had been comforting on the phone. This was the man who had raised her husband. "Before I sign," I said, and my voice was different. The weakness was gone. The tremor was gone. It was clear it was cold, and it filled the expensive, empty room. "Before I sign this 20-page document, I just want to be sure. This document, it transfers the West County land, correct?" Slade regained his composure. "Yes, Mr. Mitchell. As we discussed, it moves the asset into the trust for management." "I see," I said. "Well, I can't sign this. It seems dishonest." "What?" Patrick blurted out. "Dad, no, it's to help." "It's dishonest," I continued, "because you've asked the wrong person to the meeting." Slade frowned. "I don't understand." "You're asking me to give away land that I no longer own," I said. "And I feel that's rude to the new owners." Nina's face went white. "So," I said, "I took the liberty of inviting them. Before I sign anything, I'd like to introduce my new partners." I turned my head. I looked at the heavy glass door to the conference room. As if on cue, the door opened. It wasn't a tentative knock. It just opened. 2 men walked in. The first one Patrick and Nina knew. Mr. Russo, my lawyer. He looked like a bear in a rumpled suit, and he was carrying a thick, worn briefcase. The second man they did not know. He was in his 50s wearing a professional suit, but he had the wind-burned face of a man who spends time outdoors. He looked official. "What is this?" Slade said, standing up. "This is a private meeting." "It's an advisory meeting," Russo growled, walking right past him and taking a seat next to me. "My client is being advised. Sit down, Slade." Slade looked like he was about to call security. Nina, however, was staring at the new man. Her face was a mask of cold fury. "Who the hell are you?" she snapped. "Get out of here." The new man didn't look at her. He looked at me. He smiled a genuine warm smile. "Mr. Mitchell," he said, extending his hand. "I just wanted to come by in person." The man was Mr. Harrison, the director of the State Parks Conservatory. "Mr. Harrison," I said, shaking his hand firmly, "thank you for coming on such short notice." "Thank you, Owen," Harrison said, his voice full of real emotion. Slade was lost. What is going on?" Patrick looked like he was about to be sick. "Dad, who are these people?" Harrison turned to the room. "I apologize for the intrusion," he said, his voice professional. "I'm Director Harrison from the State Parks Conservatory. We just wanted to officially, personally thank Mr. Mitchell." He turned to Nina, who was glaring at him. "Ma'am," he said, his smile bright, "I don't know if he's told you, but your father-in-law has just made the single largest donation in the history of the Virginia park system. He has, well, he did, sign over the entirety of his 500-acre property in West County to the state. It's going to be a beautiful new public park." Harrison beamed at me. "The Rose Mitchell Memorial Preserve. It's a wonderful, wonderful legacy." Patrick made a small choking sound. Nina just stared. Her brain was processing. "And," Harrison continued, oblivious to the drama, "I have to say your father-in-law's lawyers are efficient. I've never seen my legal team work so fast. We We got the whole thing filed, stamped, and recorded with the county, just yesterday afternoon. 4:42 p.m. to be exact. Yesterday, Patrick whispered. He looked at the 20-page document on the table. He looked at Slade. But we're signing today. And then, Nina. She stood up. Her chair scraped back with a violent screech. The mask of the caring daughter-in-law, the smooth operator. It didn't just crack. It shattered. It vaporized. Her face, her beautiful, composed face, twisted into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Her eyes were wide and her mouth was a snarl. "You can't!" she shrieked, the sound echoing off the glass walls. It wasn't a question. It was a roar. She wasn't looking at Harrison. She was looking at me. "You can't!" she screamed again, jabbing a finger at me. "We have the power of attorney. We have the paper. You can't give away what's ours." "Ours?" I asked, my voice quiet. "That," Russo said, his voice cutting through the room like a rusty saw, "is where you are mistaken, Mrs. Mitchell." He reached into his briefcase. He pulled out a single notarized document, the one we had dated for Monday. "First," Russo said, "this power of attorney you're clinging to, it was revoked, signed by my client and notarized by my office, at 8 a.m. on Monday, before you even made your little weepy phone call. Every move you've made since then, including hiring this gentleman," he gestured to Slade, "has been based on a document that is legally worthless. You've been acting on your own, not for my client." Slade's face went from smug to confused to absolutely terrified in about 2 seconds. He was looking at Russo, and he knew he was out-lawyered. "And second," Russo growled, "even if it was valid, he just gave away his land. He's allowed. You don't seem to own anything, except," he smiled that horrible smile, "a very large, empty house." Nina didn't speak. She just stared at me. The hatred in her eyes was so pure, so total, it was almost impressive. She had lost. $20 million. Gone. Evaporated. And she knew in that single terrible moment, I had done it to her. Nina was still breathing heavily, her chest heaving. The scream was still echoing in the room. Her face was a terrifying mask of pure hatred, her eyes locked on me. You can't," she whispered, her voice hoarse. Patrick had slumped back into his chair. He looked like a puppet with his strings cut. He was just staring at the 20-page document on the table, the one that meant nothing. He was staring at the $20 million ghost. Slade, their shark lawyer, was frozen. He was looking at Russo's backdated revocation, and I could see the gears turning in his head. He was calculating his own liability. He was done. I took a small step forward. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The room was silent. "You're right about one thing, Nina," I said, my voice calm and quiet. "I can't just give away what's yours." She looked at me, a flicker of insane hope in her eyes. Then this is a lie. We can sue." "Oh, I'm not talking about the land," I said. "The land was never yours. It was always Rose's, and now it belongs to her forever." I let that sink in. I let her feel the full weight of the $20 million loss, and then I moved to the real target. "I'm talking," I said, "about the $850,000. Patrick, who had been pale and limp, suddenly went rigid. He looked up at me. Nina's head snapped around. "The $850,000 you borrowed?" I continued, my voice still quiet. "The money you took from my 401k. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I just wanted to say, thank you." Patrick and Nina just stared. They were completely, utterly frozen. This wasn't part of their plan. They didn't understand. Slade, the lawyer, looked up, his face a mask of pure confusion. "What? Thank me?" Nina whispered, her voice suspicious. What? What are you talking about? I'm thanking you, I said. Because you see, I was worried. I was worried about that 850K. It was a problem. I leaned forward, putting my hands on the back of the empty chair. You see, Nina, I'm just a simple contractor. I believe in paying my bills, and I had a very big bill coming due. When I sold the $20 million land, I was going to have a massive tax bill. Capital gains, federal and state. I'm just an old man, but I did the math. And it came to, well, what do you know? It came to almost exactly $850,000. I looked right at Patrick. That's the number I told you, isn't it, son? When you asked the tax money. Patrick's face was ashen. He looked like he was going to be sick. I was worried, I continued, about how to pay it. What a burden. But then, you came along. You took the burden away from me. I looked at Mr. Harrison from the Park Service. Director, can you tell me, when a citizen makes a full charitable donation, like giving $20 million of land to the state, what's the tax implication on that? Harrison, who was just there to say thank you, suddenly looked like a kid in a candy store. Oh, well, Mr. Mitchell, it's a 100% tax deduction, a write-off, against all your income. Frankly, a gift of this size, you won't owe the IRS a single dime. In fact, you'll likely be getting refunds for the rest of your life. I smiled at him. Thank you, Director. That's good to know. I turned back to Nina. Her face was no longer angry. It was blank. The gears were turning, but they were grinding. So, you see, Nina, I said, by donating the land instead of selling it, I don't have a tax bill anymore. I have a tax deduction. The 850K problem I had, it just vanished. I don't need it. But you... And then I leaned in. I leaned right across the expensive table into her personal space, and my voice dropped to a whisper that was deadlier than her scream. But you, Nina, I said. You, on the other hand, you just received $850,000. Her eyes widened. That's right, I said. It wasn't borrowed. You didn't sign for it. It was income. You see, the IRS, they're funny. They don't really care about family stories. They don't care about bad men or saving the family. They just care about the numbers. And the numbers, I said, are this $850,000 was moved from my account to your little shell company, PNN Ventures. That's income, Nina. That's a lot of income. Slade the lawyer made a small gasping sound. He finally understood. I looked right into Nina's dead, horrified eyes. You built this whole beautiful, complicated tax trap for me, didn't you? You stole my tax money so you could force me to sell the land so the IRS would freeze my assets so you could swoop in and take the rest. I shook my head, feigning disappointment. It was a brilliant plan, truly, but you forgot one tiny little thing. I tapped my chest. You were so focused on the trap. You forgot about the bait. You took the bait, Nina. You ate the bait. You put $850,000 of undeclared, stolen, fraudulent income into your brand new, unregistered shell corporation. I smiled. So I have to ask. I'm just an old man, but I'm curious. You didn't declare that on your quarterly taxes, did you? Patrick finally made a sound. A low, wet groan. Nina's face, the rage was gone. The triumph was gone. All that was left was the cold, dawning, absolute horror of a person who just realized they haven't just lost. They've been caught. She just stared at me, no words left. She had just realized that the trap she built for me had just snapped shut on her. Slade the shark, the man in the $1,000 suit, was sweating. I could see a small bead of perspiration trace a line down his temple just in front of his perfect hair. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked at me. He looked at Russo. He looked at his clients, who were frozen in a state of catatonic horror. This is irregular. Slade finally stammered, his voice no longer a smooth, condescending drone. It was high. It was tight. You can't just accuse. This is a civil matter, a family dispute. It's not what Slade. Russo's voice cut through the room sharp as a shovel hitting ice. Not criminal. Russo, who had been sitting quietly, pushed his chair back. He reached into his battered old briefcase, the one that had been sitting at his feet, and he pulled out another stack of documents. It wasn't a thin file. It was a bound report. 6 inches thick. It looked like the one we had sent to the state. He didn't slide it. He didn't toss it. He dropped it. The stack hit the center of the polished mahogany table with a sound like a gunshot. Thud. The expensive pen rattled. Patrick jumped in his seat. Nina just stared at it. What is that? Slade whispered, his eyes wide. That, Russo said, is what my forensic accountant has been doing for the last 3 days. While my client was busy donating. He smiled that horrible smile. You see, while you were busy writing a 20-page document to steal land that wasn't there, I was busy tracing the $850,000 that was. He tapped the top of the report. This is PNN Ventures. This is the Delaware Shell Corporation. This is the wire transfer from Fidelity. And this, he flipped open the first few pages. This is the outflow. This is the $100,000 used to pay off Patrick's American Express black card. This is the $50,000 wire transfer to a casino in Vegas. This is the $250,000 down payment on a boat, Nina, that you were apparently buying in Florida. This is not paying off loan sharks. This is not saving the family. This is theft. Patrick just sunk his head into his hands, his shoulders shaking. This is privileged. Slade tried finding a sliver of his old voice. This is inadmissible. I'm what? Russo said. I'm a lawyer. Yes, I am. And as a lawyer, I'm also an officer of the court. And when I see evidence of a crime, well, I have a duty. Russo leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. So, he said, his voice dropping to a low conversational rumble. I took the liberty of making some copies. We sent the first copy, he said, to the Fairfax County Police Department this morning, 9 a.m. We included the original police report from your wellness check on Tuesday night, the one you filed. We attached a sworn affidavit from Mr. Mitchell's granddaughter detailing the real reason for that call. It's called conspiracy to commit fraud. It's called filing a false police report. It's a felony. Nina's face, which had been blank with horror, now registered a new, sharper terror. And the second copy? Russo continued, his voice calm. Well, that one was the big one. That's the one we sent overnight express to the Criminal Investigation Division of the Internal Revenue Service. Even Harrison, the man from the parks, winced. The IRS, I said, speaking for the first time. They're funny. They don't really care about the boat, Nina. They don't care about the casino. They just care about one thing. I leaned in. Undeclared income. This is an outrage, Slade yelled, finally finding his bluster. He stood up. This is harassment. My clients are leaving. This meeting is over. You're right about one thing, a new voice said. The heavy glass door to the conference room opened again. This time it wasn't Russo. It wasn't Harrison. It was 2 men. In suits. Not expensive suits like Slade's, but suits that fit. They were police, and I knew their faces. They were the two officers, the two calm professional officers who had knocked on Patrick's door on Tuesday night. The ones Nina had looked so relieved to see. They didn't look relieved to see her now. The lead detective, a tall man with tired eyes, looked around the room. He saw me. He saw Russo. He saw Harrison. And then his eyes settled on Patrick and Nina. "Well," the detective said, This saves us a trip." Nina finally found her voice. It was a high, thin, reedy sound. "Officer, what is this? We're in a meeting." "We know," the detective said. He took a step into the room. His partner stood by the door. "We just came from your house in Fairfax, Mrs. Mitchell. And, well, we also got a very, very interesting file from the IRS this morning. They asked us to come along." Slade looked like he was about to faint. "Patrick Mitchell, Nina Mitchell," the detective said. His voice was no longer conversational. It was all cop. Patrick looked up, his face stained with tears, his eyes wide with the terror of a child who has finally been caught. Nina just stared. She was a statue, a perfect, beautiful marble statue of pure, frozen hate. The detective took out the handcuffs. The small click as they opened was the loudest sound I had ever heard. "You are both under arrest for financial elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, bank fraud, and—" He looked down at the file in his hand, multi-count felony tax evasion. 3 months later. The air is cold, crisp. It's February, and the ground is firm beneath my boots. I'm standing on the land. My land. Rose's land. It's quiet here. The only sound is the wind moving through the bare branches of the oak trees. But something is new. Right at the trailhead, where the old logging path used to begin, there's a large new sign. It's beautifully carved from a single piece of oak. It's simple. It's permanent. It reads, "The Rose Mitchell Memorial Preserve." A small figure shivers next to me, pulling her coat tighter. It's beautiful, Grandpa," Chloe says, her voice quiet. I put my arm around her. She leans her head on my shoulder. "Yes," I said. "It is." Chloe is home. She transferred. She left that expensive out-of-state university and is now a student at the local college 10 minutes from my house. She lives with me in the little house Rose and I built. Her room. It's Patrick's old room. She's filled it with books and life. The house isn't quiet anymore. It's good. I'm adjusting my will. It's a simple adjustment. Everything, the house, the truck, the $12, and the massive lifelong tax refund I'm getting from the donation, it all goes to her. My legacy is no longer in land. It's in her. "Do you think," Chloe starts, "do you think they're cold?" I know who she means. "I don't know, I imagine so. Patrick and Nina. They lost everything. The glass cage, the marble mausoleum in Fairfax. It was foreclosed on. The bank seized it along with the German cars and the designer furniture. It's all being auctioned off to pay a very small fraction of the debts they owed, and of course, the massive penalties and interest they owed to the IRS. They're in a federal holding facility. They're awaiting sentencing. They pled guilty. They had no choice. Russo's report the IRS file. It was an avalanche. They are facing 7 to 10 years. They lost their house. They lost their money. They lost their freedom. And they lost their daughter. It's okay to be sad for him, I tell Chloe, squeezing her shoulder. I'm not, she says, her voice surprisingly strong. She's got Rose's steel in her. I'm sad for who I thought he was. I'm sad for you, Grandpa. I look at the sign, her mother's name carved deep into the wood. Don't be, I said. I'm at peace. So this is where I am now. I am Owen Mitchell, 73 years old. And technically on paper, I'm a broke man. My 401k, the account I spent 50 years building, is gone. It's just evaporated. The $850,000 is a number in a police report, now a piece of evidence in a federal case. I'll never see a dime of it. But my wife's legacy, Rose's legacy, that is safe. It's safe, forever protected by the state, where no one can ever try to sell it or manage it or build a glass cage on it. The Rose Mitchell Memorial Preserve will outlive us all. Patrick and Nina, they were smart. They were brilliant. They tried to build the perfect inescapable trap, a tax trap. They knew I was just a simple contractor. They figured I was just an old man who wouldn't understand the complex rules of capital gains and IRS penalties. But they forgot. They forgot one fundamental lesson, a lesson I tried and failed to teach my own son when he was just a boy, when I caught him stealing $5 from his mother's purse. I told him then, and he didn't listen. Patrick, I had said, don't you ever mess with two things in this life: a person's hard-earned money and a man who has nothing left to lose. Well, I was wrong. I've updated the list. Don't you ever mess with three things: a father you've pushed into a corner, a man who has nothing left to lose, and the Internal Revenue Service. My son and his wife, they stole $850,000 from me. And the IRS, they're going to take everything else from them. They're going to take their house. They're going to take their freedom. They're going to take the next 10 years of their lives. It's not the payback I ever wanted, but it is a payment. And it's one I'm satisfied to watch them make. The lesson from this story is that trust, when misplaced, becomes the most dangerous weapon. It shows that even within a family, kindness without clear boundaries can be exploited as weakness. Owen's story is a painful reminder that we must be vigilant and proactive in protecting our own legacy and dignity. Sometimes the strongest act of love isn't endless sacrifice, but the courage to draw a firm, uncrossable line, ensuring that respect is a non-negotiable prerequisite for any relationship. What would you have done if you received that first text message